Welcome to Talking to Myself with Mary Ellen Brown. I'm your host, Mary Ellen Brown, and this is the podcast where I talk to myself about literally anything.
Alright, I'm talking about Loki. I know, I could only put it off for so long. Loki is by far the best character in the MCU, and that's not even me being biased. It's not even because I'm in love with Loki. He is literally like the best character. And it's his analysis, like I love analyzing characters. His analysis took me so long. Like it was a project of mine to figure out Loki like completely. And I'm very proud of it. Proud of the fact that I did it. It's great. Loki, he took me so long to figure out, especially in the Loki series, which I will not be getting to today. That will have to be a different episode. But he's the best character in the MCU, he's my favorite character, he's the hottest character, and he's the most important character. Yeah. Thanos, all of that Loki started that. And then everything that's happening in Phase 4 with the multiverse, Loki started that. He's literally, like, at the root of everything in the MCU, and he doesn't get enough credit. Okay, one of my least favorite things that people call Loki is a villain. He is not a villain. Unless you are specifically talking about the Avengers, he is not a villain. He is misunderstood. Like, he really is. Okay, so in the Thor movie, I have in front of me a list of quotes. A list of Loki quotes. In the Thor movie, before he finds out that he's adopted, he is sort of like lost, and like he doesn't particularly know why he doesn't fit in, and then he finds out and he's really mad, and that's when he tries to like destroy Jotunheim, and he does that so he can prove himself to Odin. And he says, Thor asks him, why have you done this? And Loki says, to prove to father that I am the worthy son. When he wakes, I will have saved his life. I will have destroyed that race of monsters, and I will be true heir to the throne. That's very good Loki quote, and that really encapsulates why he did what he did in the first Thor movie. He says he never wanted the throne. All he ever wanted was to be Thor's equal. He really just wants to prove himself to both his brother and his father. I guess father in quotes. And then all of Loki's death scenes are just heartbreaking. Even when I know he's not actually dead, it's just he's kind of exhausting because he dies so much. Like he has died 4 times. That's too many. But his death scene in the first Thor movie, when he says, I could have done it, father. I could have done it for you. And then Odin goes, no, Loki. Why you pretend to love Loki? Okay. Me hating Odin is a different episode. Can't get into that right now. I really hate Odin, though. He sucks. No matter how much he claims to love Loki, he can never have a frost giant sitting on the throne of Asgard. That's what Loki yelled at Odin when he found out he was adopted. And he's right. Odin doesn't love him. I'm getting off track. But when Loki says that he could have done it for Odin, all he wanted was to prove himself in Thor. And then he fell into the abyss. And then we see him in the Avengers, where he doesn't get very much character analysis, and that's because he's one of 7 main characters. That tends to happen with an ensemble movie, and that's why it's good that there's like series and stuff now, where characters get like more analysis, like Clint Barton, or like Wanda, or Natasha getting her own movie, and with the Loki series. So I got a couple quotes from the Avengers. When he's talking to Thor, I think both of these are when he's talking to Thor, he says, I was a king, the rightful king of Asgard, betrayed. Actually, he wasn't talking to Thor in that. He was talking to the other, who doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It's fine. So he believes that he should have been the king of Asgard. And he's right. Honestly, yeah, he's right. Because Thor was cast out. Odin was incapacitated. So he should have been a king. Is incapacitated a word? It is now. So yeah, he should have been the king. And he was betrayed by Odin. By just being like Odin, just stop it. Okay, I'll complain about Odin for another time. But I will complain about Odin. Okay, another quote. I remember a shadow, living in the shade of your greatness. I remember you tossing me into an abyss, I who was and should be king. That's a really good quote, too. Living in the shade of your greatness. He's talking to Thor. That's really good. Like, he's like reiterating what he said in Thor, where he's just in Thor's shadow the whole time, living in the shade of his greatness. That's a really good quote. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Thor Dark World, which I love Thor Dark World, okay? It's so good. A lot of people hate Thor Dark World. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's because of Jane Foster. But also Loki dies halfway through, so like the second half of that movie is just garbage. No, I'm kidding. I love the whole movie. It's really good. The best quote in this movie is when Thor says, "I wish I could trust you," and Loki says, "Trust my rage." Oh, that's so good. It's just a powerful quote, and it just sounds really badass. But it's also a really good representation of Loki, because this is after Frigga died, and he loved Frigga. Here's a Frigga quote, talking to Loki. "You're always so perceptive about everyone but yourself." That's a really good quote. That really describes him really well. Yeah, he doesn't really know himself at this point in the timeline. But when he says, "Trust my rage," Frigga dying made him really mad, and he wants revenge on the Dark Elves for killing Frigga. So Thor can trust that he will destroy the Dark Elves, and after that, I mean, who knows what he's gonna do. But he can trust his rage, really. I love that quote. Tom Hiddleston, someone asked him, like in an interview, what his favorite Loki quote was, and he said, "Trust my rage." It was for Thor Dark World, so it was like gonna be in that movie. So "Trust my rage." I love that quote so much. Yeah. Oh, and here's his death scene in this movie. When I'll tell Father what you did here today. I didn't do it for him. That's always a good one. That's a really good quote too. Yeah. Yeah, because like he kind of moved past like doing everything to prove himself to Odin, and now he faked his own death, but he sacrificed himself to save Thor. He didn't do it for Odin. He did it for Thor. Oh, now we get to Thor Ragnarok, where I cry a lot. Like when Odin says, "I love you, my sons," and then Loki is just like he doesn't say a single word in this scene, but he makes me cry so hard in Odin's death scene. And I hate Odin. It should be a happy scene, but Loki just makes me cry. He just looks so devastated. And then we have the elevator scene, which is also very sad. Oh, I'm trying not to cry right now. Oh, okay. Before we get to the elevator scene, so he was talking to Thor about, like, finding out about Hela, that, like, Odin had a whole nother child. And Loki said, "It hurts, doesn't it? Being told you're one thing and learning it's all a fiction." That really encapsulates him really well, because that's quite literally what happened to him. And now Thor is going through that, and, like, yeah, it's kind of like, like when he got Hulk smashed, and then Thor got Hulk smashed. Now Thor knows what he went through. That's a good comparison. It works. Okay. Now we're at the elevator scene, and he said, "I guess I'll just have to go it alone, like I've always done." Actually, that's not from the elevator scene. Never mind. We'll get there. That's from the same scene that it says being told you're one thing and learning it's all a fiction. That was from when Loki like went to visit him in like the freaky circle. I don't know what you would call it. Freaky circle works. It's not like a real circle, it's like a freaky circle. Okay, I'll stop calling Korg. But when Thor was just like throwing rocks through him, he says, I guess I'll just have to go it alone, like I've always done. Literally, that's what he's always done. I mean, well, it's not really what he's always done, because he has had the ability to, like, I don't know, be friends with Thor. Like, he could. Like, Thor wouldn't, like, push him away if he just tried. And Thor thought the world of him. See, that's a quote that makes me cry. And Loki's face after it, and he's so sad. He just, like, can't express himself well enough. Open communication was never their family's forte. It's easier to let it burn. That's a lot of quotes in a row. Loki, I thought the world of you. It's so sad, and it really is a very good, that entire scene is a very good representation of Thor and Loki's relationship. How they grew up together, and how they see each other, how Thor sees Loki, and Loki's reaction to it is just, it's perfect. Like, I can't even describe it, like, you just have to watch the scene, but his face after Thor says, I thought the world of you, it's Tom Hiddleston is the best actor in the universe. That he can make you cry just by, like, one look. Oh my god. And he does it a lot, like, with multiple characters, too. So, that's like my measure of a good actor. If you can make me cry just, like, with your face, yeah, you're doing a good job then. Like Palermo and Money Heist can do that. Rodrigo de la Serna is really good, too. I love him. Anyway, in that, what else in the elevator scene? Like when Loki, wait, hold on. When Loki says, that he's better off on Sakaar, and Thor says, yeah, you're probably right. And then Loki's face says, I wanted you to tell me that you wanted me to come with you. He's so sad. Like, he just needs to talk to Thor. But again, open communication was never their family's forte. Okay, now we're getting to Infinity War, where I cry even more. Because he dies again, and this time it's for real. And I don't think the sun will shine on them again. But I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I assure you, brother, the sun will shine on us again. That's a really good quote. That's Loki's, like, acknowledgement of Thor and Loki, like, as being together. Like, they're connected. That's a weird way to say it. It's fine. Okay, the best example of that is when he calls himself Odin's son. That just breaks my heart. When he says Odin's son and he looks at Thor, that just, oh my god. That's his acknowledgement. Like, he's accepting the title of Odin's son. That's so good. That's what makes me cry. Not even just the fact that he died. That makes me cry really hard. Infinity War is so sad. Like, 9 minutes in, Loki dies. I checked. 9 minutes in, and you're already crying. Like, how they do that? And then at the end, of course, and you're just fucking wailing. Sorry for cursing. Who cares? No one's listening. Because I've been rambling for a long time. Anyway, Loki as a whole is just, like, really lost. My favorite way of describing him, and this, Tom Hiddleston said this, I don't come up with these things. By the way, side note, if you ever think you're a really big fan of Loki, no, you're not. There's never been a bigger fan of Loki than Tom Hiddleston. He loves Loki so much. Literally. I love him. Anyway. He just loves talking about Loki. Yeah. Okay. But he said, Owen Wilson, he said this in the documentary, the Assembled documentary that's the making of Loki, which is like episode 3 of that documentary. It's on Disney Plus. It's really good. I recommend it. All the episodes, specifically this one. It's narrated by Tom Hiddleston. It's so much fun. But he says that Owen Wilson asked him his favorite thing about playing Loki. And he said that he plays all the keys on the piano. Like, he plays all the, like, light, mischievous and playful notes. And then he plays the dark, heavy, broken, like, lost notes with the other hand. And I love that description so much. That really encapsulates Loki as a character. That's so good. He is so broken and so lost, and never is he more broken than in the Loki series, which I'm not getting to yet, because that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, because Loki in the timeline before the series he's just a supporting character most of the time, well, except in the Avengers, where he's the villain. Again, never is he the villain, except in the Avengers. If you listen to Tom Hiddleston talk about Loki, he never calls Loki a villain. Like, he really doesn't, and I love that. Because he's not a villain. He's not a bad guy. Sometimes he's a bad guy. In the Avengers, he's a bad guy. The rest of the time, he's not a villain. I had to explain that to my dad. Because he was like, isn't Loki a bad guy? And I said, no! He's not! I guess now I'll just play this podcast for him. What was I talking about before, though? See, this is why I should just, like, write stuff down before I start recording. Anyway, yeah, I definitely don't remember what I was talking about. Give me a second. Okay, yeah. So, in the timeline before, he's just a supporting character. And then when you get to the series, you actually get to, like, dive into the character, and that's why the Loki series is so good, because the character of Loki is so good, because Tom Hiddleston is an incredible actor. So, yeah, over the timeline, he doesn't really get very much, like, character development. I mean, he gets plenty of character development, but most of the character development is actually, like, between movies. Because, like, after Thor and before, like, the time between Thor and the Avengers, he is, like, we don't really know what he's doing. He's, like, talking to Thanos and people. Well, he's talking to Thanos' people. I don't think he actually got to meet Thanos. But, like, Thanos gave him a whole Infinity Stone. And then he just lost it. Like, why would Thanos do that? I don't know. That doesn't make very much sense. Yeah, but also if you watch Avengers, like, they don't, like, treat his scepter like it's another Infinity Stone, even though it is. And then, like, when you get to Age of Ultron, they're like, this is an Infinity Stone inside this little gem. Like, okay, that was there the whole time, but we never really, like, how do we not know about that? Anyway, really off track. So in between those two movies, we don't really know what he's doing, but he came back into the MCU very different than he was in Thor. Because in Thor, he was, like, really innocent, really, kind of. Like, he was still the god of mischief, but he wasn't really, like, trying to destroy anyone like he did in the Avengers, and he, like, destroyed New York. That wasn't his goal, but that is what happened. Yeah, and then you go to Thor Dark World, where he's defeated after the Avengers, and he's in the dungeons, and then Frigga dies, and he's mad because of that, and that's a whole thing. And then he dies in that, or he fakes his death, and then he rules Asgard. He rules Asgard for, like, 3 years. Wait, it's let's see, Thor Dark World was 2013, Ragnarok. So he ruled Asgard for 4 years, like, effectively. and he did a fairly good job, except he was pretending to be Odin, so it didn't really count as him just being the king. But he did a fairly good job because Thor didn't have to come back and like beat him up. Well, he did eventually. But yeah, he did a pretty good job, and like he didn't change very much between the 4 years between Dark World and Ragnarok. But between Thor and the Avengers, he changed a lot. Okay, this is when it goes off the rails, because I'm going to talk about Loki's hair. And how his hair is, like, no joke, a very good indicator of his personality. Okay, so in Thor, that was just Tom Hiddleston's real hair, dyed black, and it's short. And it's not very styled, it's just kind of there. So that's him just like, that's just his innocence, and like he's just there. And then in the Avengers, it's longer and it's very styled, and that's his like facade that he has of just like wanting to destroy the world, even though his only goal really is to just prove himself to his father. He's so messed up. But we love him. He's great. And then in Dark World, he has the same long hair that he had in the Avengers, but it's not as styled. And that's because he's just, like, defeated. I might be putting way too much stock into Loki's hair, but it's okay. It represents his character very well. And then again, I said that he didn't change that much between Dark World and Ragnarok, and neither did his hair. And then in Ragnarok and Infinity War, he didn't change at all because it's, like, back-to-back. It's basically the same. It's the same Loki. Yeah, like Thor Loki, and then Avengers Loki, and then Dark World Loki, and then there's Ragnarok and Infinity War Loki. Those are one Loki. And there's Loki series Loki, which we're not going to get into. I will talk about his hair briefly, because that's Tom Hiddleston's real hair, and that is just like, he really reinvents himself in the Loki series because he can, because like no one there like really knows him, and like they know who he is, and like Mobius knows everything about him, but he doesn't really, like, he hasn't met him, he hasn't interacted with him, so he doesn't really know Loki. So he is able to reinvent himself there. He's able to change. Which is why we need a whole nother episode to talk about the Loki series. Because he changes a lot. Yeah. So, okay. His hair in Ragnarok and Infinity War is not that different from from Thor Dark World. And it's all just a wig from, well, the Avengers, it was his real hair with, like, extensions, which is weird. I don't know why they would do that instead of just a wig. He looks slightly more real than, well, the hairline looked more real, but, like, the actual hair didn't look more real. Anyway, so in the Dark World and Ragnarok, it was just a wig, which doesn't really matter. But so in Ragnarok, he's like accepting like Thor again, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of not making any sense. But he has been ruling Asgard for a long time, for 4 years. And then Thor's back. And then he has to fight his sister, who he didn't know existed. He kind of goes through a lot. I mean, not more than Thor. Thor goes through so much. Give me 1 second to sympathize for Thor. Because he lost his father. He found out his brother was alive. And that he got killed in front of him. And then his best friend, Heimdall, was killed in front of him. And then he lost his hammer. This is kind of out of order. And then he almost saved everyone, but failed. Like, that's so tough. Like, you understand why he went downhill in the time wipe from between Infinity War and Endgame. Like, you know why, but like, you just feel so bad for him. And usually I don't even like Thor. Well, I like Thor. He's just an idiot. He's so stupid. Like, if he's gonna fall for Loki's crap all the time, like he's so dumb. I'm sorry, he really just is. he's so stupid. Like, especially in the first Thor movie, he's so stupid. Like, I cannot stand him. I literally hate Thor in the first Thor movie. Yeah, and then he meets Jane and changes, and he's slightly better. And then he gets better, like as time goes on, pretty much. And then he's great in Ragnarok and after that, pretty much. But before that, he's terribly annoying. And so stupid. Like, Loki said in the first Thor movie that he was trying to protect Asgard from Thor's idiotic rule. Like, that's really true. Also, in the first Thor movie, Loki, like, everything that he says, like, before visiting Thor on Earth, and then, like, when he went to Jotunheim, everything else, like, everything before that is completely true. Like, he doesn't lie at all. He's just, like, yeah. Like, he was completely right to call a guard, and tell them that they were going to Jotunheim. Yeah. Also, there's a deleted scene where you can see Loki go up to the guard and talk to him. Like, why do you delete that? That's just such a nice detail. Also, one of the best Loki characterization scenes is a deleted scene from Thor. And it's supposed to be, like, before, basically before the beginning of the movie. It would be, like, the first scene after, like, when Odin is explaining, like, the frost giants and the war and everything. But it would be before Thor's, like, coronation, before that. So it was just them, like, talking, and Thor was, like, nervous. and Loki is just comforting. It's just super nice scene. I love that scene a lot. That's the best scene in Thor, and it's a deleted scene. There's another deleted scene, which isn't as good a characterization, but it's, like, it's good for, like, Thor and Loki's, like, relationship to, like, really develop that. Not really develop it, but, like, because they've been brothers for, like, 1,000 years. They are fairly well developed, but it's kind of just to show that. But the best line in that scene was, like, half of this is in the movie. Thor said, "It is unwise to be in my company right now, brother." And Loki said, "Who said I was wise?" I just think that's really funny. Yeah. So, okay, what else do I want to talk about Loki? I could just talk about Loki for a really long time. I have been talking about Loki for a really long time. Okay, without talking about the Loki series, which I promise I will get to, because the Loki series is magnificent. But, like, Loki is literally the best character to analyze. Like, there's a lot of good characters in the MCU, but none of them are as complicated as Loki, which makes him difficult to analyze, which the best characters are. You don't want it to be too hard, but if it's a really good character, you want to spend that time trying to analyze them, and I've spent so long analyzing Loki. Like, literally, I have seen the first Thor movie 5 times, Dark World 5 times, Avengers 6 times. Oh, that's just too many. I basically have that movie memorized. I've seen Thor Ragnarok 5 times. I've only seen Loki 4 times, but I'm about to go watch it again. Like, literally, as soon as I finish recording this, I'm gonna go watch episode 1 of Loki. Yeah, so it's... Yeah, I don't need to watch all of these this many times to really know Loki, but I mean, like, to really, really know Loki, you do. Yeah. I've spent so long trying to get to know Loki, and I'm very proud of the fact that I know him. I was complaining to my friends for a long time about not being able to figure out Loki in the Loki series, and then I finally did. I was so proud of myself. Like, so proud of myself, because he's very difficult. Because he's so complex. To quote Tom Hiddleston, God bless him, he's a complicated cat. I love that quote. I love saying that. Yeah, God bless him, he's a complicated cat. That's so good. Tom Hiddleston loves Loki so much. Like, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Tom Hiddleston is Loki's biggest fangirl. Because he just loves playing Loki and talking about Loki. He's great. Alright, I think I should probably shut up about Loki. Even though I could talk about him for a lot longer. And I will when I do the episode about the Loki series. Yeah. Alright, I'm stopping there. Okay, bye.